Hello there and welcome to Nightline. I'm Azara Tagaya. The headlines. No free land for China in exchange for cheaper ECRL, says Lim Guan Eng. Sri Lankan official says bombings are retaliation for New Zealand massacre. Good morning. China will not be given free land in exchange for a reduction of 21.5 billion ringgit in the East Coast Rail Link ECRL project. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng stressed that the matter had never been discussed in the cabinet meeting.
I do not think that is correct, because I think we are looking at the contract itself. So if there is anything additional, I think you will have to go through cabinet. So far, I think we have not been informed, like what you have mentioned, that additional 4,500 acres has been given for free. I don't think so. But if it's paid, then that's a different question. If we add ons. But given for free, definitely not true.
Lim said this after witnessing the signing of an agreement for the industrial collaboration program between the government and Bombardier Hatta Soma Consortium at the Finance Ministry in Putrajaya on Tuesday. On April 12th, Malaysia Rail Link Sendirian Berhad MRL and China Communications Construction Company Limited CCCC signed an additional ECRL agreement in Beijing. The government recently announced that the ECRL is back on track with an improved agreement with CCCC at a reduced cost of 44 billion ringgit compared to 65.5 billion ringgit before. Blogger Raja Petra Kamarudin in his portal claimed that the CCCC deduction was for the exchange of 4,500 acres of land in 7 industrial parks adjacent to ECRL stations. The Finance Minister also gave his assurance that the government will service all debt obligations related to One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB.
Any bonds or any loans taken by KWSP and QAP related to 1MDB is guaranteed. Guaranteed by who? By the Ministry of Finance on behalf of the Malaysian government. So their loans are secured 100%. There's nothing to worry. The one that should be worried is the MOF and the Malaysian government, because we guaranteed their loans. So they are assured of getting their money. I think the Malaysian government needs to find money to pay all these loans of 1MDB, which we get nothing in return.
Lim was responding to a news report saying that the government is proposing that 2.4 billion ringgit worth of 1MDB bonds held by the Retirement Fund Incorporation QAP and Tabung Haji to be converted into equity stakes in the Bandar Malaysia project. On another issue, Lim said the government will monitor the ringgit's performance in the foreign exchange market following the recent fall in the currency's value. Lim said the local currency's performance should be evaluated on an annual basis, as it was normal for the value of currencies to fluctuate from day to day. In an interview with Bernama, the Finance Minister said the government will have to see its performance over a year. He pointed out that it will not be very accurate if the government does a daily projection. Lim said this when asked whether the government would adopt an intervention policy to curb the ringgit's fall following the recent weakening of the local currency. Last week, global index provider FTSE Russell said it would review Malaysia's market accessibility level in its World Government Bond Index WGBI due to concerns about market liquidity. This led to the ringgit's weakening as investors were worried about the prospects of the government debt being removed from the index. Malaysia, currently assigned A2, which is the highest level of accessibility and included in the WGBI since 2004, is being considered for a potential downgrade to 1, making it ineligible for inclusion in the index. The government is expected to announce the reduction of toll rates on all highways across the country, including the North-South Expressway NSC, as early as next month. Speaking to us in a recent interview, Tun Daim Zainuddin said his confidence was based on a detailed study carried out by the Council of Eminent Persons chaired by him, which was later reviewed by the government through the Works Ministry. However, Tun Daim did not give the value of the toll rates to be announced and said it would only be decided by the government. He also said the reduction could be implemented without the extension of the toll concession period.
Itu tadi dia dah buat kajian, kita pun dah kajian, kita kata insya-Allah kalau dibuat kajian, saya harap bulan depan Menteri Kerja Raya akan buat pengumuman. Saya ingat boleh turun. Saya ingat pulang ke kajian akhir. Plus highway, semua highway kita boleh.
Semua highway?
Kita boleh.
Wah, mungkin tu boleh jelaskan macam mana boleh?
Itu pulang. Kita sini dah buat kajian dah. Kita buat kajian, kita dah bagi tahu kepada kepada Perdana Menteri dah hantar kepada Kementerian Kerja Raya. Sekarang dia buat kajian terakhir lah.
Tun Daim also said that besides toll rates, the government is also looking at lowering food prices as well as building more affordable housing for the people. This is expected to be implemented within 6 months.
Semua sekarang dia buat kajian, dia dah tahu lah. Dia tahu. Dan sekarang pelaksanaan. Yang nombor 1, ini pasal makanan. Nombor 1 pasal makanan. Nombor 2 pasal tol. Sekarang ada Menteri Kerja Raya, kajian mungkin bulan depan akan keluar pernyataan. Kalau boleh turun tol, barang-barang akan turun juga kerana pengangkutan turun. Selain itu, lagi satu pada rumah. Affordable houses.
The abolishment of tolls was one of Pakatan Harapan PH's election promises in the run-up to the 14th general election. More than 4 million people in the Klang Valley will face a 3-day water supply disruption from Wednesday until April 27th. Those affected comprised of at least 620,835 account holders of Syarikat Bekalan Air Selangor Sendirian Berhad Syabas in 577 areas. The water disruption was planned by Pengurusan Air Selangor Sendirian Berhad Air Selangor and the National Water Services Commission (SPAN) to conduct improvement works to the Sungai Selangor Phase 2 water treatment plant. The shutdown will affect 6 districts: Klang Shah Alam, Kuala Lumpur, Petaling, Gombak, Kuala Langat and Kuala Selangor. The upgrading works will be carried out from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m, but some places may take up to 86 hours for the water supply to be fully restored. Syabas Customer Relations and Communications Department Head Abdul Rauf Ahmad said the company will be mobilizing 82 water tankers and 17 jumbo tankers during the water disruption period. He said that consumers can contact Syabas for more information, especially for emergency cases including funerals or wedding feasts. Earlier, Air Selangor Chief Executive Officer Suhaimi Kamrazaman said that no rebates will be given to consumers affected by scheduled water cuts. This is because early notice has been issued on the water supply disruption so that consumers could store up sufficient water for use when supply is disrupted during upgrading works at the water treatment plant. A total of 300,000 ringgit was paid to a private consulting firm which was hired by the Barisan Nasional Government to monitor Chinese media content for the Prime Minister's Office PMO 4 years ago. Centre for Strategic Engagement Sendirian Berhad Sense Director Rita Sim testified in court that the amount was paid for the firm's service between December 2014 and January 2015. Sim took the stand as the 14th witness on the 7th day of former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Mohammad Najib Tun Razak's corruption trial at the Kuala Lumpur High Court on Tuesday. She said the firm received instructions from the late Rompin MP Tan Sri Jamaluddin Jarjis, who would have meetings with Sense at the PMO in Putrajaya. The firm was tasked with monitoring 6 Chinese dailies, namely Sinchu Daily, Oriental Daily, Nanyang Siang Pao, China Press, Guanming Daily and Kwong Wah Jit Po. Its job scope included picking up the points and issues concerning the Chinese communities and summarizing it daily before having them compiled and sent to the media office of the PMO. Sim said she was told by Tan Sri Jamaluddin that the reason was to identify the problems faced by the Chinese community. The hearing continues on Wednesday. In Perlis, the trial of the molest case against former Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Datuk Sri Shahidan Kasim, kicked off on Tuesday with the prosecution's first two witnesses testifying at the Kanga Sessions Court before Judge Ainul Shahrin Mohamad. The hearing, which began at 10:30 a.m., ended 4 hours later. The first witness, Azhar Hassan, told the court that there was possibility of touching between the accused and the underage victim at the back seat of a car on the night of the incident, and that was on October 20th last year. Azhar said he could not assume that the molesting was taking place at that time, as the girl did not scream. The court was also told that Datuk Sri Shahidan and the underage victim only spoke for several minutes before the latter alighted from the car. The second witness, known as Azlin, testified that the girl cried after the alleged incident and said that while in the car, the accused had touched her left shoulder. The girl's family lodged a police report at 3 a.m. the next day before retracting it at 10 a.m. the same day. On November 12th, Datuk Sri Shahidan pleaded not guilty to the charge under the Sexual Offences Against Children Act 2017 with physical sexual assault on a child by touching any part of the child's body. If convicted, the 68-year-old Arau Member of Parliament faces imprisonment of up to 10 years and whipping. He also risks losing his parliamentary seat if found guilty. The hearing continues on Wednesday, with the prosecution set to call 11 other witnesses. The Coroner's Court on Tuesday dismissed the application by the prosecution to recall two expert witnesses in the inquest into the death of fireman Muhammad Adib Muhammad Kasim. Coroner Rofiah Muhammad said the witnesses involved 24th witness, Kuala Lumpur Hospital forensic pathologist Dr. Ahmad Hafizam Hasmi, and HKL's forensic department head, Datuk Dr. Muhammad Shah Mahmud, who is the 27th witness, had already been called to give their testimonies. Rofiah said if the two witnesses are recalled, it will strengthen their previous findings, and the court will also have to recall the 29th witness, former senior forensic and pathology consultant at Hospital Chancellor Tuanku Muhriz, Professor Dr. Shahrum Abdul Wahib. Earlier, conducting officer Hamdan Hamzah told the court that he would file an appeal to the High Court against the coroner's decision in rejecting the application to recall the two witnesses. Rofiah then set May 10th for the verdict on the inquest. Muhammad Adib, a member of the Subang Jaya Fire and Rescue Department's Emergency Medical Retrieval Service unit, was seriously injured during a riot at the Sri Maha Mariamman Temple in USJ 25 on November 27th last year. He died on December 17th at the National Heart Institute. The Finance Ministry on Tuesday announced that the government has approved a total of 49 development projects for Sabah Sandakan district worth 2.28 billion ringgit for the well-being of its people. Its minister, Lim Guan Eng, in a statement said the government would continue to give serious focus on the development of Sandakan district, which is the second largest in Sabah. Lim said the initiative is expected to benefit almost 400,000 residents in Sandakan. The federal government, he said, had allocated sufficient funds for the Sandakan district so that its economy would continue to expand to become a viable business centre in eastern Sabah. Among the projects which are identified to benefit the Rakyat is the Sungai Anip flood mitigation project in Sandakan, which is estimated to cost 40 million ringgit. He said the government had also approved the expansion of the Sandakan airport with a cost of 80 million ringgit. The expansion involved widening of the runway and improving the apron to increase the capabilities of the airport. Lim said that apart from that, there were also several other projects to improve the economic status of Sandakan. The projects comprise oil and palm oil industry, as well as to provide good transportation networks to further intensify the local economy. Coming up after the break, third group of RTD enforcement personnel called in to give their statements. Stay with us. Back with us on Nightline. The Energy, Technology, Science, Climate Change and Environment Ministry is set to introduce a new act to replace the Environmental Quality Act 1974. Its Deputy Minister said this is to ensure heavier penalties are imposed against individuals who create harm by polluting the environment.
Pada masa ini, Jabatan Dalam Sekitar sedang dalam peringkat akhir ya untuk menggubal satu akta baharu bagi menggantikan Akta Kualiti Alam Sekeliling 1974, dan saya sangat bersetuju dengan Yang Berhormat Senator kalau bila terjadi tragedi Sungai Kim Kim ini melibatkan begitu ramai ya anak-anak di sekolah, dan denda yang macam sebegitu kita rasa agak ringan ya, dan saya ingin menyatakan di sini bahawa pihak Mestek ya tidak akan berkompromi, kerajaan tidak akan berkompromi kepada semua pesalah-pesalah yang telah melibatkan ramai pihak dan menyusahkan begitu ramai pihak atas perbuatan yang.
Under Section 34B of the Environmental Quality Act 1974, a person found guilty is liable to imprisonment not exceeding 5 years and fine not more than 500,000 ringgit. On March 7th, illegal chemical waste dumping at Sungai Kim Kim led to the closure of more than 100 schools, while over 500 victims were treated for toxic fume inhalation. In Pulau Pinang, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC has recorded statements from 24 other Road Transport Department RTD enforcement personnel to assist in its investigations of corrupt activities involving lorry drivers who violated traffic laws by overloading their vehicles. They are the third group called in to give their statements to the MACC. According to sources, all 24 of them from grades 19 to 32 were present at the Pulau Pinang MACC office in Georgetown to give their statements at about 9 a.m. on Tuesday. Last Saturday, 22 RTD enforcement officers were summoned for their statements to be recorded, but only 5 of them were remanded. It was learned that those called in to give their statements were part of 75 RTD officers who were being monitored for suspected illicit activities. It is believed that the Pulau Pinang RTD enforcement personnel accepted monthly payments of between 10,000 ringgit and 32,000 ringgit as inducements not to take action against lorry drivers for various traffic offences, particularly for operating overweight lorries. Meanwhile, 6 RTD enforcement officers remanded since Wednesday and Sunday were released on Monday. The move was made as there was no extension on the remand order against the 6 officers. The 6 individuals were from the first and second group of RTD personnel held to assist in the MACC's probe into the lorry driver protection case. MACC Deputy Chief Commissioner of Operations, Datuk Sri Azam Baki, said investigation papers into the case will be completed as soon as possible for further action. In Perak, the bone fragments found in the Guakandu area in Kampar last Saturday have been confirmed to be human bones. However, questions remain if the discovery is connected to the case of missing person 29-year-old Muhammad Ashraf Hassan, whose last known location on March 23rd was within the area where the bones were found. Although preliminary findings of the autopsy confirm that the fragments are human bones, the forensic authorities believe that the bones are old. Over in Malacca, an unemployed man was ordered to enter his defence over the murder of 3 members of a family and attempted murder of 2 others. The 30-year-old accused was charged with killing Hassan Abdul Wahab, 70, Mariah Bahrim, 60, and Muhammad Taufik Hassan, 21, at a house in Bertam Malim 3 years ago. The accused also faces charges of stabbing 25-year-old Nur Haslinda Diana Hassan and Nur Akidah Aina Hassan, aged 24, with a machete that may cause death at the same location, time and date. For both charges, Lokman Hadi faces a life jail sentence or a 20-year jail term upon conviction, and the court set July 17th and 18th for the accused to enter his defence. A policeman, Sergeant Jad Firdaus Muhammad Ali, 30, pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of corruption regarding a drug-related case 4 years ago at the Shah Alam Sessions Court. The accused was alleged to have received a bribe to cease investigations of a drug-related case, as well as altering the results of a urine test. He was charged according to Section 16, Subsection A and Subsection B, and Section 17, Subsection A of the SPRM Act 2009, which carries a maximum of 20 years jail and 5 times the bribe amount, or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher, upon conviction. The court fixed a 4,000 ringgit bail and 24th May for remention of the case. After the breather, jade mine collapsed in Myanmar, burying over 50 underneath. Stay tuned. On to the foreign front. Daesh militants have claimed responsibility for the deadly suicide bomb attacks in Sri Lanka on Sunday, which killed at least 321 people and left hundreds more wounded. However, the group did not provide evidence for its claim. This comes after a Sri Lanka official said that the attacks were carried out in revenge for last month's attacks on 2 mosques in New Zealand, which killed 50 people. According to State Defence Minister, police have so far arrested at least 40 suspects who have connections with the National Tawhid Jamaat (NTJ), which they said was responsible for the bombing attacks. This includes the driver of a van allegedly used by suicide bombers involved in the deadly bombings and the owner of a house where some of them lived. The arrests were made after the government imposed a state of emergency, giving the police sweeping powers to detain and interrogate suspects without obtaining warrants. He also revealed that another local extremist group, Jamiatul Milatu Ibrahim (JMI), also took part in the attack together with the NTJ. Earlier on Tuesday, grieving Sri Lankans began to bury their dead and the country was observing a day of national mourning. 3 minutes of silence were marked nationwide from 8:30 a.m. local time, which was the exact time the first suicide bomber struck on Sunday, unleashing carnage at 3 hotels and 3 churches. Flags were lowered to half-mast on government buildings and liquor shops were ordered closed for the day. Over in the Philippines, a second major quake has rattled the nation following an earlier 6.1 magnitude earthquake that killed at least 16 people. However, there were no immediate reports of casualties and tsunami warnings from the new quake. According to the United States Geological Survey, USGS, the 6.4 magnitude earthquake was registered near San Julian town, eastern Samar province, with a depth of 83.3 kilometers on Tuesday afternoon, prompting residents to dash out of houses and office workers to scamper to safety. The new tremor came as rescuers were still searching on Tuesday for 30 people believed to be trapped in a supermarket in Manila that collapsed in the Monday quake. In Myanmar, more than 50 people are feared dead after a landslide hit a major jade mining area in the northern Kachin state on Monday. So far, 3 bodies have been recovered from the mud as the search and rescue operation is still ongoing. According to officials, the accident took place near Mawun Kalai village when a mud filter pond situated in an old mining site collapsed. It is understood that a total of 54 staff from 2 private companies were buried under a mound of mining waste, along with 40 machines and vehicles. Officials added it is unlikely that there will be survivors, as the victims were buried about 30 meters under the mud. Coming up, action from the Super League. Stay tuned. On to sports, football, the Super League. Perak continue their winless streak after they were held to a 3-3 draw by Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday night. It was the Bosgorus who drew the first blood thanks to an own goal by Zaiful Hakim on the 8th minute. Indraputra Mahyudin equalised for the City Boys on the 22nd minute, but Perak regained their lead 7 minutes later through Leandro Santos, who converted from the spot. The hosts then once again equalised, this time through Guilherme de Paula, before taking a 3-2 lead through Paulo Jose. However, their hopes of bagging the maximum 3 points were denied when Noor Hakim Hassan levelled matters for Perak 5 minutes from time for a 3-all final scoreline. The draw left Perak in 8th place with 10 points, while Kuala Lumpur moved to the 11th spot with 8 points after 10 matches. Well, that sports item wraps up Nightline this time around. We leave you with the visuals of huge splashes, tricks, as well as costumes of skiers and snowboarders at the fun-filled Red Bull Slope Circus contest in Colorado, US. I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thanks for your company.